Hi, my name is Bob Kulick, and I'm a Grammy Award-winning producer, guitarist, arranger, composer. I've worked with some of the top artists in my field, and have done things like produced the theme for Triple H for the WWE wrestler, and I've done a SpongeBob song as well. So I've pretty much done an apples to nuts kind of career. Well, I was always very passionate about music when it finally struck me as a child when I went to see a classical concert and heard Ravel's Bolero. It kind of affected me in an emotional way. And then when I was able to see the Murray the K shows in Brooklyn, New York, which were basically 20 acts doing one song each, appearing at these shows. They did Labor Day shows and Christmas shows and Easter shows. And I was able to get a really big dose of a broad spectrum of artists that affected me. By the time the Beatles came out, I was ready to be affected, as the world was, by the British invasion and the change of the world that was created by the Beatles and their music. So at that point, I began to take music very seriously and became a serious musician who at that point made a commitment to try to become a star, to try to become what my idols were, the Beatles and Cream and Led Zeppelin and people like that affected me. I think if I were to say something about my career is that I've been really fortunate and that I am not the one-trick pony. I am able to play other styles. I always thought to myself, if you're going to do this, you should be able to play with anybody and play anything, even though obviously I had my wheelhouse, i.e. my personal vibe. You know, once I developed my own style as a player, you know, I gravitated towards the heavier side of music, the harder rock, the metal side, as it were. But having said that, I produced country artists, you know, wrote and produced a song for SpongeBob, as I mentioned earlier, did the theme for Triple H, a wrestler, you know, wound up taking these other paths that were not necessarily the one thing. I was never somebody who was associated with just one band, although most people know me from Meat Loaf or from Kiss, because I guess those were two of the biggest artists that visually that I worked with. I did Paul Stanley's tour in 1989, so there was a big dose of Kiss fans seeing me play those songs that they heard me play on Paul's solo record. So, you know, and that was a real treat for me because, you know, again, back in the day, there was no other way to communicate. There was no social media. Nobody was putting something up on Facebook for somebody to see. Oh, Paul Stanley's band's going to be in town next week. That didn't exist. What existed was only the organic. And so I was able to get to the point where now with the help of social media, it's a whole different ball of wax, a whole different world. You know, I was very lucky because being from New York, there were capitals of the music industry: London, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. New York was one of the big capitals for music. And so most of my gigs were gotten by answering ads in the Village Voice there. So Kiss, at the time Wicked Lester, was one of the bands that advertised for a lead guitar player. So I went down and auditioned for the band. And while I didn't get the gig, I did impress the guys, Gene and Paul especially, enough that I became their friend. And when the time came that they needed some hired gun playing, shall we say, where they needed a ghost guitar player to come in and play, they called upon me. And so on Kiss Alive 2, some of the solos and some of the other guitar parts were me. And I went on to play on Paul's record and write some songs with Gene. And that blossomed into, as one thing leads to another, especially back in the day, you know, before social media, where all of this happened organically. One artist led me to another. And so I wound up playing with Alice Cooper because of doing a session with a guitar player, Dick Wagner, who was working with Alice at the time, and whose foil, the other guitar player, Steve Hunter, was going to go do a tour with Peter Gabriel. So because I did a session with Dick, he suggested that I come and play with him with Alice Cooper. And so I wound up playing with Alice Cooper. I worked with a disco artist named George McRae. Lou Reed and Mick Ronson came to one of our shows, and I was able to meet Lou Reed. And so 9 months later, I was at a recording studio in Manhattan. Coming out of the bathroom, I was there visiting another artist, and there's Lou Reed. What are you doing here? I'm like, I'm just here visiting somebody else that's recording here. Next thing you know, I'm playing on his record. So my journey was one of one artist led to another. When Gene Simmons was dating Diana Ross, she was about to record Why Do Fools Fall in Love, one of her biggest hits, in Mirror Mirror. Gene called me to ask me to come and play guitar on those tracks, which I did. And so this led me from one gig to another. And so my career wound up being one of, you know, accepting my fate and following this yellow brick road of, you know, the tree of music where one artist led me to another. On one level, so you go and play a gig, as I've done either, I did the pre-Kiss cruise party a couple of years in a row, or for instance, you know, we're here at the Count studio where, you know, they're working on this Kiss tribute record in conjunction with the gig that we did in August, a charity event. People come and they video this, they go on Facebook, and they show a picture. Here's Bob Kulick and Sean Corey from Meat Loaf's band doing Nowhere to Run, with a link to the YouTube site where you can actually go and see this song. This was unheard of from back in the day. And within hours, one's able to see one's performance. It's both frightening and enlightening, because to share something that is actually, you know what, that's really good, to share that with the world now was never the case back in my day. You know, it was always piecemeal. The band went from city to city, and that's how you got yourself known, or there was a radio. There was no instant communication. I'm on my way to see this band. Here's the picture. Here's the video. That's a whole other thing to what it used to be. And from the outgoing, as opposed to the incoming, my seeing a picture of me with a fan, you know, somebody posting. I was lucky enough to meet Bob Kulick the other night. He was so nice and took the time to talk to me. What other avenue could one take years ago before the advent of social media that one could see that on? It didn't exist. But yet now everybody can see something like that, and you can see the comments of what people have to say. Yeah, I met him and he was a really nice guy. Wow, how uplifting is that? You know, that's something totally special. From my perspective, to be able to now communicate directly with my fans and have this connection. So when one of my idols passes, like Lou Reed, when he died, I was lucky enough to work with Lou Reed, as I said. I had a picture that I put up of Lou and was able to share my experience. Rest in peace, Lou Reed. I had the honor and privilege of working with this tremendous artist. Blah, 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 blah. Those are the comments and likes that I look at. I want to see who's I've touched with what I've said about somebody who really means something. Same when my mentor and guitar friend Dick Wagner died. I wanted to see who saw the post, who saw me pour my heart out for how much this person meant to me. Not I'm going to lunch, I hope to have a nice Italian meal. I'm economical in the way I use social media. I don't want a glut of stuff out there. When I post, I want somebody to see it and take it seriously. And if I'm advertising myself, I'm going to be in Miami, and I hope you all come to see that people will write, looking forward to seeing you there. That never ever happened before in my life, where people could communicate directly with you like that. That to me is the greatest part of it. I think the positive aspect of any of the social media things is the fact that somebody who is smart, a band or an artist, who can put up something undeniably great, a song, a photo, something that will catch everyone's attention. That never happened before. You needed a record company, you needed a publicity agent, you needed this, that, and the other thing, you needed a favor, you needed to open for, for Led Zeppelin in order to have that. Now it's not the case. Now if you can play somebody, that hit song that you wrote on there, somebody's gonna see it and something good will come out of it. The same with a photo. A photo that is undeniably great, that somebody could look at and say, I gotta check this band out, because this picture is unbelievably off the map. If it's a Lady Gaga or somebody like that posting a picture wearing meat, or you know what I'm saying, something like that where it is so off the map and so unusual, the social media picks up on that, feeds upon that, projects all of that, and next thing you know, you've created a platform for yourself to jump off to the next level. So that's the positive aspect, that if somebody's smart and somebody has the talent and somebody has the vision to utilize this advantage that has been presented, the ability to communicate with the whole world instantly, is also the downfall. Because too many people take this as I've been saying over and over, post everything that you do and everything that you have. So every demo that you've created is up there to be seen. Every bad picture that somebody sent you of you on stage, you put up there. You've now watered down the product, your product, and made it mundane. And then it just goes into the pile where it's not noticed. And that is the sad part to me, that too many people overuse this, thinking that maybe this is the one, maybe that's the one, when the reality is, if, like I use the word economical, only post something that is heartfelt, something that will help your cause, that will be undeniable. That's the word I always use to artists. Your picture, your songs, your performance, to show a live performance with a link to YouTube that's not great does not help you. To show a link to a performance on YouTube where you're killing it and the audience is going crazy, guaranteed somebody's going to see that and you will have forwarded your cause. It's a great question. I think, like, for instance, if one goes back and makes this comparison, when the Beatles played the Ed Sullivan Show, that was that era's social media, because everybody saw that, like everybody now has their Facebook page. So everybody went to see 8 o'clock on Sunday night, the Ed Sullivan Show. Now here's the fabulous Beatles, as Ed Sullivan did. And there they were to be seen. And because they looked amazing, and because they were great beyond belief, that was a worldwide phenomenon right there. They conquered the United States in 3 Sundays flat. They played 3 Sundays in a row, and that did the trick. Moving to other bands, though, to have Led Zeppelin or Cream or all of that in a social media instance where it was seen on a screen, to me would have negated the power of seeing it in person. Because the innovators, which these people were, of course, I'm a little prejudiced being from that generation, but my opinion is that everything that has come since, and I'm not saying this in any negative way towards bands or artists that exist today, because there are artists that are phenomenally great and have amazing songs, no less than some of the artists that I've referenced, but derivative and influenced by the artists that I'm talking about. And so this may work now for Shania Twain or for Taylor Swift or somebody to post stuff and to have a website and to use the social media to further their cause, even with the record company and the publicity machine and the management and the touring and all of that. Back then, if we had seen Led Zeppelin on a screen, the power of what they delivered, the experience of being there to see the founding fathers, so to speak, the Jimi Hendrixes, the Eric Claptons, the gods that I saw, to hear that, to feel that music yourself in person, not on a social media thing, not on your iPhone, not on an iPad, but there in person. That to me was the social media of that time. And so the answer is no. I don't think it would have helped. I think it would have hurt, because we all wanted to go and see these bands rather than, I saw a clip on YouTube and that bad moment that got shown rather than the best of what it was. Well, I have several projects that I'm working on. As a producer, I have a record that I produced, which is a tribute to Randy Rhoads, immortal Randy Rhoads, who was Ozzy Osbourne's guitar player back in the early 80s, also played with Quiet Riot. He was sadly killed in a plane crash at age 25. And this record, which comprises his compositions from both bands and some of the artists that he worked with back in the day, is something that is close to my heart, with the family's blessings. I think because of his fan base and the fact that with Crazy Train and songs like that, which were Randy Rhoads, when people hear Tom Morello and George Lynch and Serge Tankian from System of a Down and some of the great Frankie Banali and some of the people, Rudy Sarzo, the bass player who played with Randy in both bands, both in Quiet Riot and with Ozzy, the heart and soul that I put into this, that these artists put into this, is something that I'm specifically proud of, and this will be out in March. I just embarked upon now, as a producer, something that I referred to earlier, which was the indication of fate in my life by seeing a classical concert at age 11 where Ravel's Bolero made me cry. I sat there and I didn't understand why I was crying. It was because God was trying to tell me that music is your life. And so now I'm doing Metal Shredders Go Classic. Famous metal guitar players, rock guitar players playing over the orchestration to Ravel's Bolero and Flight of the Valkyries and Flight of the Bumblebee and those pieces that we all know, Hall of the Mountain King, all of that stuff, those melodies that we all know, the William Tell Overture, all of that stuff that everybody knows, except now the slant will be having guitar players on there. I'm also writing my memoir. I have, the 11 platinum and gold records that I made, all those artists, the stories of Diana Ross and Meatloaf and Kiss and all of those people, I think need to be told. And the stories from some of my production work, being able to put different artists together, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters, and Lemmy from Motorhead, to put them onto a recording together to create a band that nobody ever heard before and nobody will ever hear again, is something that I take real pride in. So documenting all of this in a book, I hope it will be an educational look back, like on social media when there are those days where I dig out that picture of me playing with Meatloaf and I'll post it because there's some significance. I went to see Meatloaf play in Las Vegas and there was a picture of me and Meat, and now I put a picture up of us back in the day playing. This will be the book version of that. And so I'm specifically excited about that. Well, I think as a teacher, which as a producer is part of what one does. I think what I would say to people using social media for their music or for their art is to, as I said, always put your best foot forward. Be economical in what you do. Try to make an impression as people made an impression upon you. As far as things that I've left to accomplish, I always look forward to the next challenge because that keeps me fresh and that keeps me on my toes. And I'm somebody who likes a challenge, you know, and knowing that I have a gift and that I've succeeded in so many different aspects of my musical career, and I've worked with so many different people in so many different ways, and to have the music community be my friend. And so when I call these great artists, they respect me because they know how seriously I take it. And that's what I would impart upon you all, is to whatever you do, to have pride in what you do and take it seriously, because what we do in life echoes in eternity.